Hey, what's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Liz, and the question that I am posing to you and to myself right now is what has this inauguration brought up in you, emotionally speaking? What type of feelings and sensations or emotional responses did you notice in yourself with this collective moment that we've all shared as a country as well as a world? And we experience a lot of collective moments as a country and world. Um, this one, right now, and all of them really, right? They have their own unique experiences to it. Um, and I'm wondering what came up for you in this one. Maybe it's a sense of hope, a sense of relief, a sense of excitement, historical milestones for our country, uh, vision of healing and unity being put forward. Maybe it was and still is an experience of even just allowing yourself to feel hope for the first time in some time, right? Allowing yourself to get caught up in the pageantry and being taken for a ride on just this new energy that this administration is promising. Maybe you have kids and you got to talk with your kids about the fact that we have a female vice president for the first time and the most diverse administration to date. Or maybe you are like many Americans and you felt a lot of anger and fear. Maybe you feel a deep sense of being scorned and wronged. Uh, Perhaps you feel a deep sense of mistrust of what's going on in our country, in the world, the media. Perhaps it made you feel even more lost in a sense, even more forgotten in a sense. Or maybe you are some mixture of something else, you know? Um, Maybe this inauguration was confusing in some kind of way, and you noticed almost like a quasi PTSD response to what's going on. I know for me, I identify as a progressive Democrat, and uh, I noticed a lot of challenging feelings present for me. Even though I voted for Biden, I woke up feeling very irritable and this very clear feeling of just having dense energy in my body and in my heart. And it was confusing because I had so many people around me. I live in New York City, right? Like hearing people cheering outside, having family members and friends reach out and just be so enthusiastic and be like, it's a good ass day. And I was like, I hear that and I so support the parade that you are experiencing right now. And I just wasn't there. I wasn't there for my own political mistrust, my own concerns about holding our administration accountable for just holding our this administration accountable and making sure that that's being done appropriately. Um, and also just, not wanting to be in this, my team, your team dance anymore. Just really seeing past that, seeing through that, um, feeling a lot of concern for the deeper structural issues at place, um, within that this election and this inauguration it exists within. So, I didn't really come on here to share too much about my own personal experience in that way because there's a lot of layers to it and there's a lot more to share. But something that I did notice that was really interesting within my own experience, and I'm curious what yours was, right? Because for me, the way that I hold and perceive all of this and the way that I go about doing my work in terms of facilitating community space for folks like you and me to come together and share about our personal lived experiences with collective moments like the inauguration, um, is that we have an opportunity to learn from each other. We have an opportunity to flesh out our own unique experiences with things. And in that way, whatever your experience is, I wholeheartedly welcome it here. And that's not just lip service, and of course, within Circle, there's parameters in place to keep it constructive and safe as possible, right? But really, permitting our feelings, validating the experience and existence of our feelings, as weird or confusing as they may be, is rule number one in my book, as a fellow feeler and as an advocate for feelings. So, if you feel comfortable and called to, I'd love to hear from you, you know. Uh, and if you are more interested in something a little bit more contained, you're welcome to join me this Sunday in a circle that has an agreement of confidentiality to it and really sets up even more of a space to be able to speak openly from the heart and put words to feelings and listen empathically to each other. But, enough of that little plug. Really something cool that came through for me, and I've always known this about myself, but just going into my own little story share real quick, is that I really noticed because I was trying to make sense of this density that I was feeling. I was trying to make sense of my own feelings of just like aversion to what was going on. I was just like, oh, I can't, you know, all due respect, I just can't. Um, was that I was really picking up on and in tune with collective energy. And that might sound kind of kooky to some people. Collective energy, what are you talking about? But I've come to understand that part of my personal lived experience, part of my unique set of capacities and skills in this lifetime is an attunement to the collective consciousness and the collective dimension, the collective psyche, the collective pain body of our world and of the communities and the communities that I'm part of, the circles I run in. And I just felt such a clear sense of pain and forgottenness that really wanted it to make itself known. Um, so it's interesting, and it's interesting. I'm very much a big proponent of therapy and finding support systems that meet you and meet me where we're at to really help support um, emotional processing, emotional skill development, all this other good stuff. And so I'm very grateful to have a super skilled, blessed therapist who I work with. And it was interesting within that therapy session. that just happened yesterday. I wanted to create some space for this dense feeling because I also noticed within my own coping mechanism, or just, what I felt called to do within the last few days, is just really pour myself into my work, pour myself into my mission. This is what does make sense, is within my control, right? But in that way, didn't create an ample enough amount of time for this emotional energy to be properly felt and released. And not even released, but like digested and transmuted, right? Because we have come to know through fields of neurobiology that emotions really go in waves, right? And if we don't allow that full wave to be lived, it can get stuck, right? It can get stuck in our bodies and in our nervous systems and our consciousness. So, anywho, in therapy, creating some space for it, and the type of therapy that I do too is very body based. It's very emotion centric, meaning like healing oriented versus insight oriented. So the emotional experience is really what the therapy centers around, as opposed to thoughts or story or narrative, which can be more insight oriented or cognitive oriented. Um, and it was in this therapy session of creating space for this sensation and set of, just energy that was with me, that I noticed that it was quite different than other energies I had previously worked with, or have a more of a familiarity of working with. And if you're familiar with parts work, with internal family systems, Dick Schwartz's work, there are techniques for helping people connect with different parts of themselves. You can also think about it as inner child work, right? Where we start to get to know the different exiled or wounded parts of ourselves and can learn to reparent them, or learn to understand and hear their needs and communicate with them in a way that then we can like bring them back in and integrate them back into our whole. And this is work that I really respond well to. And of course, we're all different, right? We all got to find what works for us. And the awesome part is that there's so many different tools and approaches out there. So it really becomes our own personal discovery process of testing different things out and seeing what works and what resonates. And um, so this type of parts work really resonates with me and has been of really great service to me. And part of the things that I've received from it is kind of like a relationship with my inner children, a relationship with different parts of myself, where I can really, tune into, a hard feeling, a challenging feeling, and learn to listen to what that part of me needs. And so in session yesterday, I was doing that same practice with this energy. I was like, slowing myself down, being connected with my therapist, and just listening and attuning myself and creating space, creating a lot of space for this dense, challenging energy. And I realized I couldn't hear it in the same way that I can hear some of my own individual parts. And it was through this process of exploring this that I came to realize and have an even stronger confidence in my knowing that this energy that I was feeling was really the collective. And again, that might sound kooky, right? That might sound kooky. The collective, what is this? Or maybe it makes complete sense to you, right? Maybe you yourself are also sensitive and attuned in this way. because we know that this kind of thing falls on a spectrum, right? Similar to sexuality, similar to other types of intelligences, right? This is something that falls on a spectrum. So, yeah, in that way, it was a really just deeper affirmation for me around what I was experiencing. That kind of clarity was really helpful for me in understanding what I was experiencing, and therefore guiding me or giving me new insight into how to be in relationship with this energy that's within me, this experience. Um, and in that way as well, listening or, listening for that deeper purpose and that deeper why, that thread of guidance on how me being attuned to this particular dense energy, how that relates to or weaves into my larger purpose and calling and reason for being here on this earth, right? Which we all have our own unique purposes and reasons for being here. And that's really what having a relationship with our emotions can help inform us about. It's one of the many ways, but it's a really powerful one because it's connected to our hearts, and our hearts are connected to our souls. So I'm a firm believer and a big believer that the more that we can learn to be in relationship with our emotions in a constructive way, in a loving way, in a curious and inquisitive way, the more we can unearth and reveal to ourselves about why we're here, what we need, and how to go about doing it. So, if this resonates with you, I would love to hear that. I would love to know. I'd love to connect by either sharing a comment below or reaching out. You can find me on wehealforall.com. I'll link that below. But yeah, it's like we live at such a transformational time. It's such a deeply, truly transformational time. So our experiences with collective moments like the inauguration probably isn't simple. It's probably not straightforward. Probably has layers to it and nods to some of the complexities that are the reality of our world. And again, there's, even though that's kind of like, can be overwhelming, right? It's like, oh my gosh, complexity. I've already got, kids and a job and a home and, so many things going on in the world. Like, really, but I really do think that there's a deeper purpose to all of this, and committed to that question of what the deeper purpose is and how all of this complexity and these emotional responses around it are of service to that deeper purpose. So thank you so much for tuning in and connecting. Would love to hear from you. Subscribe. Keep checking it out. I'm getting this channel up and running. So give me some love if you're feeling this. And yeah, I look forward to connecting more in the near future. All right, from my home to yours, a lot of love, a lot of blessings, and a lot of peace.